Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stotz of the Valuation Masterclass. And tonight we're going to have a battle of the minds, a debate about the company Fastenal. This debate that you're going to witness is based upon the hard work put into the Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp by Putti-san, who's saying that we should buy Fastenal, and Benjamin, who's saying we should sell it. These opposing views are interesting as we think about how we construct our portfolios. Now, before we get into the debate, I'm going to see it's a very fast-paced debate. I want to introduce you to the company Fastenal. And so let me do that. And I'm going to go to the first thing. This is a distribution center of Fastenal. It's an incredible picture of all the trucks that are coming and going in the company. So it's an American company headquartered in Minnesota, and it's one of the largest industrial and construction supply distributors in the world, providing fasteners, tools, safety products, and the like. And one second. It's got about 3,560 sites or so the last time I looked at it. There's walk-in branches, but most importantly are the on-site locations where they embed themselves in the customer's factories or warehouses. And then, of course, they've got their distribution centers. Now, this is mainly a U.S. company with about 2,900 locations across America, but also Canada and Mexico. And then finally, in the rest of the world, even in little old Thailand, the company has been expanding. So this is one of the reasons why you could be a buyer, is that, come on, this company has just captured the US market, and there's a ton of business all around the world. Now, the biggest moat of Fastenal is its embedded distribution model. This is on-site locations of their customers. They have vending machines. They do all the supply chain management. And this locks in the customer who appreciates it. Now, 30% of the total revenue comes from fasteners, which is what they originally started with, but they do safety supplies, tools, and other products that they handle. The key thing about Fastenal is that they basically help you to manage your inventory, which can be a nightmare to manage. Now, the stock price has shown strong momentum, and after a period of consolidation, you can see the stock price rising above the 50-day moving average and way above the 200-day moving average. Some people would say that's a sign that there's further momentum, and others may say, oh no, this is going to be falling. Consensus estimates show a hold, right? About majority of the analysts covering the company are saying hold. And on my world-class benchmarking scorecard, the company has maintained world-class performance. Their profitable growth score is ranked number 1 out of 1,370 industrial companies worldwide. This truly is a financially world-class company. Now, we can take a look at Fastenal on the global stock tracker. If you don't have it, make sure you scan the QR code so you get it. But let's take a closer look. We can see Fastenal has got a net profit margin of about 15%, a return on assets of an incredible 26%, and PE is 39, and price to book is a massive 12. Now, industrial companies are trading at about 7.8 times price to book, so the price to book is about double what the industry is. 6% earnings growth, and price is up about 13% over the past, I think it's 3 months, yeah. And then there's no debt. The company is super profitable, and the beta, therefore, is almost zero. So no relationship to the stock market. So let's meet our buyer. Putti-san is a financial engineering student at KMITL, King Mongkut Institute of Technology, Lat Krabang, and NIDA, the National Institute of Development Administration, studying the double degree program, which many of our graduates have studied. and he's interned with the stock exchange, has technical skills in Python and the like. In fact, he's the type of guy you want to know and hire when he graduates. Now, on the other side, Ben is another guy you'll want to know who's also from the same program. And he's been doing valuation and financial modeling and the like. And he's interned at Kiatnakin Patra and Copac Solutions, and he's working on risk analytics, automation, data-driven insights, and like. Again, these two guys, both of them, you probably want to work with. Now, the debate rules are: we're going to have opening arguments, take 3 minutes. Each of them will get 3 minutes. Then we'll have a rebuttal round where each one will have 3 minutes to counter the opponent's arguments. And then we have a Q&A session that will last about 6 minutes. And you are welcome to submit your questions. I know we already have some questions being submitted. And then finally, we'll wrap up with 3 minutes closing statements for each. So let the games begin. I'm going to bring the gentleman into the group. Hold on one second. All right. Now I'm going to be in the middle just so you guys, don't, no punching or anything like that. So how are you feeling? Nervous?
Yeah, a bit.
And, you guys have already done a lot of work on this company. What additional level of work have you done to prepare for this?
Reading each other's reports so we can get insight to what each other are thinking and where we're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to understand the counter arguments. And the point here really is to help investors to think of both sides. So it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to it. So I think we're going to get started, and we're going to start with the opening arguments. And Puji-san, you'll be able to go first. So as soon as you're ready to start, I'm going to start the timer.
So I'm start right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, today I'm presenting a buy recommendation for Fastenal company. Fastenal is more than just an industrial distributor of screws and safety gears. It is evolving into a digitally integrated supply chain partner. I see it as a value player driven by its unique industrial funding and on-site strategies. Current trading at $41, I see a clear path to $47, offering a 14 upside. Let's look at a story behind this growth. The core of my investment thesis rests on the three key stories that separate Fastenal from the competition. First is the aggressive revenue target. Fastenal is executing a strategy to hit $10 billion in revenue by 2028. This requires a sustained 9% annual growth rate. How will they get there? By shifting away from simple distribution to become embedded in their customer operations. This support by the second story, the digital mode. Fastenal is not just selling products, it's installing infrastructures through their FMI, Fasten Managed Inventory, and Fast Vend machines. They place inventory directly on the customer floor. This digital footprint is expected to lock in 68% of sales, creating a massive competitive moat. Once these machines are installed, it becomes incredibly difficult for a competitor to displace them. It creates a sticky recurring revenue. And the third one is strategic capital allocation. To support it, Fastenal is putting its money where its growth is. They have budget $235 million into $255 million in 2025 capex, specifically to accelerate this digital expansion and FMI hardware development. This spending is securing future revenue stream today. And now, translating this story into the value. I'm arrived at my $47 target price using free cash flow to firm's valuation model. I'm used a WACC of 6.5% reflecting a stable financial profile. I'm apply a conservative terminal growth rate of 2%. Even with conservative estimates, the stock is undervalued relative to its growth potential. In conclusion, Fastenal is transforming from machinery supplier into an intelligent, digitally integrated partner with a clear path to $10 billion revenue, a defensive digital moat, and 14% upside to our target price. I recommend a buy.
Bingo. Well done. All right, Ben, take it away.
Right. So, hi everybody. I am here to support my sell recommendation. And before I get into my 3 points, I just wanna separate how Fastenal strong execution, it should be separate from their fundamentals, because I believe their strong execution isn't really translating into stronger growth quality. And that leads me to my first point, where their growth engine, which is their customer signings, have slowed down because revenue growth has decelerated from 16% in 2024 all the way down to 3% in 2024. Sorry, from 2022 to 2024, even as customer site increases. And while these sales did recover in 2025, it's clear that these sales come from their past customer site signings in the last 6 quarters rather than, a acceleration in new on-site signings, because they missed their signing targets in 2024, and then they also had to reduce their target for signing as a result in 2025. And at the same time, their increase in revenue comes with an increased concentration in these large customer sites where, you know, it does boost revenue, but it reduces their pricing flexibility, and that would reduce their pricing power going forward, affecting both their future revenue and future profitability. And taking a look at my second point, where I want to talk about their margins, where I feel like it's being pressured. No, it is being pressured, even despite its 2025 recovery, as gross margin from 46.2% in 2021 uh, is has been compressed to 45% in 2024. And management says this will continue due to one, uh, increase in their large accounts, and secondly, their increase in non-fastener product sales, which are both lower margin by nature. And despite their efforts to improve it, these were offset by higher increase in costs. And for their increased capex, I believe this will put a future strain on their cash flow because their margins are capped. So this would limit near-term free cash flow, because, and with no improvement in their margins, this could potentially also limit their future cash flow. And that supports my recommendation that Fastenal, at a current price of 41, would go down to $33, even despite a high terminal growth rate of 3%.
Okay, interesting. Well, before we continue, you guys just take a moment and gather your thoughts. I'm going to take us into. We're going to be going into the rebuttal round, and the purpose of the rebuttal round is for each of you guys to support your arguments, and most importantly, to counter the arguments of the others. And for those people watching, it's quite an impressive level of knowledge that these guys have. And if you want to become a company valuation expert, we can do it in months, not years, in the Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp. And you're seeing it happen with these guys right here. So it's time for the rebuttal round. Puji-san, are you ready to go?
Yeah,
Take it away.
okay. First, I would like to thank to Benjamin for his insight, but I'm thinking in the another way. So the bridge case on Fastenal present in this report hides on a single dangerous misconception. It confuses investment with inefficiency. The report agrees that Fastenal is weak because its gross margins are contracting as it expands its on-site and large national account business. Benjamin sees a company losing its pricing power. I see a company brilliantly trading percentage point for an unbeatable economics moat. To sell Fastenal now is to fundamentally misunderstand the evolution of industrial distribution. First, let's look at the margin arguments. The report treats lower gross margin from on-site contracts as a failure. It is actually a strategy. When Fastenal embeds itself inside a customer factory, margin might drop, but switching costs skyrockets. The customer stops being a shopper and starts being a partner. We are not seeing a margin erosion. We are seeing the purchase of loyalty. I will glad trade 100 basis points of margin from a customer who stay for 20 years. Second, slowing momentum. The report screams about weak industrial manufacturing, but look at the data in the report itself. The economy is contracting, yet Fastenal delivered 12% revenue growth in third quarter. That ignores the weakness. That is taking market shares. If they can grow double digits when the market is bleeding, imagine the operating leverage they will unleash when the cycle turns. The third, reshoring. The report admits 37% of OEMs are bringing manufacturing back to the US. Who benefit the most? The distributor with the local infrastructure and the smart tech supply chain. Fastenal is a shovel seller in the US industrial renaissance. Betting against them now is betting against the return of American manufacturing. In conclusion, the sale rating is fixed on the short-term frictions of building a network. It penalizes Fastenal for the cost of its own success. The margin pressure is admission fee for market dominance. We are looking at a company that grows in downturns and anchors the American supply chain. This is not a sell, and it is a buy.
Okay, excellent. So you heard the rebuttals there, Ben, and now it's your time to rebut Pudisan's arguments, and I'll start the timer as soon as you go.
All right. I would like to thank Puti-san's points of rebuttal. But I would have to agree to disagree because I see that they've executed well operationally in quarter three, but none of that has translated to margins. But before I get into margins, let's as I mentioned for their growth, it does push up the revenue and also in quarter three, but I've emphasized before that this comes from contract signing over the last previous 6 quarters. And at the same time, their contracts target signings have always fallen below management's expectations in both 2024 and 2025. And with growth increasingly concentrated in these customer sites, which you said does increase their revenue, it does lock them into lower price flexibility. And it just tells us that the current revenue strength reflects past wins rather than, clear reacceleration in new growth drivers. And second, for the digital and FMI expansion, that does increase customer stickiness. It does bring lower gross margins from one large national accounts. And also, secondly, they're non-fastener products, which are both lower margin. And so while this digital footprint does strengthen relationship, it kind of locks them into a point where it does not translate into a sustained margin expansion in the future. And third is really on the margins and efficiency, because as Puisan pointed out that their revenue has increased, and in third quarter and second quarter they have increased, but their margin has only increased by, 4 basis points. And I would say this is a worrying sign because although they have made efforts to improve it with their fastener expansion project, and it drove like a 12% increase in daily sales rate, their gross margin only improved by a tiny amount, as I said before, and this was due to the benefit being offset by higher fixed costs and also higher inventory drawdown costs, which the management does note to keep persisting in the future. And right now they have not released a plan to counteract these higher costs. So this just means that the business is working harder to maintain their margins rather than to expand them. And Lastly on capex and cash flow, I feel as it's not really framed as, it shouldn't be framed as value creation, because although they're increasing investment to grow their FMI vending machines, this cash generation is dependent on working capital right now rather than the underlying earnings growth because of the pressures on their margins. So it's not an issue of whether they're a strong operator. It's the issue of if they can manage their costs. Because in the end, revenue is, I would like to say that revenue, is vanity. It's good, but at the end, cash is king, and their operating cash flow has been down.
Okay, great. So now we've heard the opening arguments and we've heard the rebuttals. Now it's time for questions. So before we get into that, you guys just take a moment, get your thoughts together. I'll be right back. Hold on. So next, we are going to go into the Q&A round. This round will last for 6 minutes, and we'll have questions. I see questions coming in on the channel, so make sure that you guys, for those out there right now, make sure you've asked any questions because we've got the time right now. So we're going to get started. I'm going to ask the first questions to each of you guys, and then we'll get into the questions that are coming in on the wires. So let me start the clock. So Puji-san, on your side, one of the questions that I have is that I'm so nervous that the gross margin and the EBIT margin is so high for this company that the only way they can really drive revenue or EPS growth is revenue growth. They don't really have much expansion. So how are you confident that they can deliver growth over the next couple of years when it's not going to come from margin expansion, I believe?
Yeah, in my opinion, I believe in there's long-term investment like Fastwin and Fastwin, which after the project finished. So this inventory or this long-term investment will create a value to the company, which is a very strong revenue to the company too, because they also be the first one who made in this FMI of this project compared to the industry. So I believe that there is strong revenue growth here. So in my forecast, it might not be a overbought or over value of the EBIT margin.
Okay. And Ben, on your side, why aren't you more optimistic in the sense that this is a really high quality company with a very unique offering? Many companies out there, particularly only in the US, if we only look at the US, could benefit from this. If they just, keep getting out there and selling, they can expand for a long time. Why would you not feel more positive about that?
Because I feel like they're sacrificing their profitability for growth, because they're locking in these larger, bigger customers who have the power to demand a lower price. I mean, it does lock in revenue, but they have to sacrifice growth and profitability. And at the same time, with the industry being highly competitive and fragmented, there's no clear leader in terms of market share, in terms of revenue. So I feel as these companies, they could catch on to what Fastenal is doing. As what we could see with Granger and MSC, they've implemented some things related to smart inventory management, although it's not as service heavy as Fastenal. I feel like if other companies pivot towards the same path and can offer the same or lower price than Fastenal, that could affect Fastenal's pricing power even more.
Wouldn't that be an argument that Fastenal should move quickly, even though it's lower margin, to grab as many customers as it can?
I mean, that's initially what I thought, but with the target signings going down, is as it's not meeting management's expectations on how fast they should grow to maybe capitalize on this, trend or this change in the industrial distributor market. Yeah.
Okay, let's go through some questions. And if there's specifically for one of you guys, then we'll have you guys answer. If you think you would like to answer it, just shout out and start answering it. The first question comes from Lee Rigglesworth, and he says, "How about expanding the overseas business? Are there any developments planned?" And maybe Fuji-san, you want to take that one because you're talking about the growth opportunity.
Yeah, for the Fastenal, like actually in my story, I also have talk about the capex, the capex to accelerate its digital expansions and specifically funding FMI hardware deployment like FastWin and FastWin. Here, alongside critical distribution upgrade to the industry. And
Oh, but
also,
can
the investment ensure the necessary.
Yep, just wrap it up, Fuji-san, and then Ben, if you want to add something. Yep.
Yeah, its digital footprint while enhance the on-site efficiencies. Yeah.
Okay, Ben,
So
what
it
were you
will
going to say?
grow in the future.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that point because from what I've read, they are only concerned with maximizing their operations in the US. So far, there's no plans to increase like customer sites overseas. Yeah.
I mean, when you look at expansion of a company like this, sometimes you really feel like it's a Midwestern type of company that just doesn't have the capacity to really deal with global markets, as opposed to some companies that just are brought up globally. All right, next question comes from Arush, who says, if customers are becoming more locked in through on-site and FMI, why assume future growth is at risk? And it's also expanding in other countries. We won't need to worry about the other countries now, but what about the first part of that question?
Okay. Puisan, you want to go first or can I go first?
You can go first.
Go ahead.
Okay. I wouldn't say future growth is at severe risk, but I would say that it's not as good as we expect it to be because it's also not as good as management's expectations. That's why they reduce signings. But I think that's an interesting point to think about maybe when the manufacturing recovers, because I think manufacturers are less reluctant right now to bring on or overhaul their supply chain.
Another thing that I was thinking about, what normally happens when a company starts is that they get the best locations in the beginning, and they capture the low-hanging fruit. And then as they expand, they have to go for, expansion that's not as profitable, but they capture the market. I remember Home Pro in Thailand, when it first started, it had like 20 stores in the center of Bangkok, basically, or right around, the main city. And people felt like there's no way this company is going to produce earnings, in the future, because any new, shop that they're setting up is, in the areas that aren't really high revenue. And so, but yet, they've continued to do well. Now, Lee has a question here. He says, how well have the company been able to pass on tariff costs, and are there core customers pushing back in any way? Maybe Fuji-san, you want to answer that?
So to pass about the tariff cost, Fastenal might need to have some project to the might be government or the core customer pushing back, and I think in my opinion, I think the company can hold on the market shares. So there is not any problem to the company because I will try to highlight that there is a first move in this industry. So it not be a big problem to the company to hold
Okay.
on
So
cost.
let's take the next question. And again, for you, Fuji-san, is MSC likely to outpace Fastenal in industrial vending machine deployment over the next few years? A major competitor.
In my opinion, I already researched about it that there are more vending machine deployments. So the strong point of Fastenal is Fastenal being the first one that make it, and like as a Home Pro in Thailand. They also start with a small point, but the Fastenal is starting first. Yeah, that's my
Okay.
answer.
Well, time's up for the Q&A. So take a moment and get your minds together and get ready for your closing statements. I'll be right back. So we're going to move into the final round, which is the closing arguments. And before we get into those closing arguments, think about it from your own perspective. What do you think? A buy or a sell? Fastenal is an interesting company for sure, and it's in an interesting situation right now. And I would say it's one of the harder decisions to make out there. So let's get back into the debate, and then we'll have Pudisan give his closing arguments as to why we should be buying this stock now. Pudisan, take it away.
To summarize my position, I'm issue a buy recommendation for Fastenal company. My target price is $47, which offer a 14 upside from the current price of $41. While the market views Fastenal as a traditional industrial distributor, I believe this view is outdated. The data show that Fastenal is rapidly evolving into a technology-driven supply chain partner. We are not just buying a company that sells screws; we are buying a company that is successfully installing the digital infrastructure of American manufacturing. The opportunity here is to buy a high-quality compounder at a discount to its intrinsic value before the market fully prices in the digital transformation. The central pillar of my thesis is digital modes. Fastenal aggressive rollout of FMI, specifically its vending machine and bin systems, it's changing the games. It is not just about convenience, it is about the locking in revenue. My analysis highlight that this digital footprint is expected to lock in 68% of total sales. Once Fastenal installs a machine on a customer floor, they become deeply embedded in that customer's daily operations. It creates a high switching cost and sticky recurring revenue that competitors cannot easily displace. To secure this future, management is allocating serious capital. They have budgeted 235 million to 255 million in 2025 capex. Specifically to accelerate this digital expansion, they are literally building their future revenue stream today. Financially, the roadmap is clear. Fastenal is executing strategy to hit $10 billion in revenue by 2028. My valuation supports this goal but remains grounded conservative assumptions. I'm using free cash flow to firm model, and I apply a WACC of 6.5% and conservative terminal growth rate 2%. Even with this ground input, the stock undervalue, we are paying fair price today for a company with a clear path to double-digit return. Fastenal combines the stability of industrial giant with the growth potential of tech-enabled logistics leader with 14% upside and a defensive mode. Fastenal is a buy.
Excellent. Okay, Ben, take it away.
All right, and to close this debate about whether Fastenal is a good company, it clearly is, but the question is whether the fundamentals support the meaningful upside from here. And I would say no, because from my target price of $33, this implies a 12% downside from the current price. And this is due to one, the core growth engine is slowing from the increase in customer sites, because I believe that recent revenue is from the past contract signings, and with management's expectations going down, I feel like that weakens their forward growth visibility. And at the same time, with their margin upside being structurally capped, and with their efforts to just maintain margins rather to expand them, I feel like this is something that everybody should consider when thinking whether to buy or sell Fastenal. And lastly, with their capital intensity rising to support their larger customers, their digital vending and their on-site programs. And this also brings more inventory and higher receivables, as seen by their double-digit growth in year on year in every quarter in 2025. And I feel as their cash generation is becoming more dependent on these two factors rather than their earnings growth. And taking them together, Fastenal is a high quality operator, but their slower growth, their capped margins, and their rising capital intensity, I feel as could limit their long term upside. And at today's valuation, with a high PE and a high book relative to its peers, I do believe Fastenal will revert down to its fair value of $33. And thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, Roman, who's from boot camp number 15, says great debate on Fastenal. So well done. And also Lee said it's a tough decision to make, but great presentation. So well done for well argued on both sides. Now that we're finished, how are you feeling?
It was fun. It was fun, but it's interesting to see the other side of the pond.
Yep.
I
Fuji-san?
think I'm very serious about the question because there might be shock for me about the tariff. Yeah, but
Yep.
it sounds like it's also fun for me.
And if you think about it, comparing what you just did to when you started in the Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp, what's the difference between what you could do then and what you just did?
It's different. Actually, my work changed all page that I have done at the first time. I'm changed all page of it. Also include my vocabulary also and my word. Yeah, my spelling in English. So I need to fix.
Excellent. And how about yourself, Ben?
I think for overall, much better. But in context of this second debate, definitely way better than the first debate I had a couple of years ago. And that's because I think because of the time and effort we put in the work, we build up this pool of knowledge on Fastenal subconsciously. So we are a lot more confident in saying if we should buy or sell and do to what reasons. And I enjoyed it because in the end, me and Putti-san, we're both so sure that we're right? But I guess we'll find out like in a year, who's right,
Yes.
And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, in fact, that's what's so great about the future. Nobody really knows until it comes. And, one of the things I've learned in my life is never get overly confident that you know what the outcome's going to be. So I just want to say congratulations. That was a great debate, very well argued on both sides. You've accumulated a lot of knowledge, but you're not done yet. We still got 3 more companies that you're going to be valuing. And by the time you get to the 4th company and you're done, you're going to be amazed. And you're going to think to yourself, I thought I was in great shape after 6 weeks. And then you're going to realize, wow, there's a whole nother level. And at my age in my life, I still see the next level and the next level and the next level of learning and expertise and what you can bring to the world. So, it's just great watching it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to take you guys out and then I'll talk to the audience for just a moment. Hold on one second. Wow, an incredible debate. Really impressive. As we see the comments coming in, great debate and compelling arguments on both sides. Other comments, you guys are doing the hardest part. Well done and congratulations to both of you. Yep. And great debate. Well done. Another great debate coming in. Thanks for all the great comments and support that you guys are giving to them, because it's not easy, as you know, to get up here and make your claim. So let me just wrap up here just for a moment and say that was the debate between Fuji-san, who is a buyer, and Ben, who was a seller. This is what we're trying to get to in the Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp, is to get not only expertise, but also mastery as people start to debate and argue and build up their arguments so that they are able to write great research and then take that research to the next level of presenting it and debating it. It's one of the things I loved about being an analyst all my life. What I loved is going deep into a company and really understanding it and then bringing that out to the world with my understanding on it. And I just personally love it. So if you want to build a competitive advantage in company valuation, then join us at the next Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp. And maybe it will be you that's out there doing a debate, writing the research, and standing up and getting the transformation that you deserve. I'll see you there. This is Andrew Stotts.